Welcome to this getting started video for Shormann Prealgebra, and I'm your instructor, Dr. David Shormann, and I have been a math and science teacher since 1990. More importantly, I use math daily in science and engineering applications, including research on humpback whales like you see in the background here. And by God's grace, I'll help you learn how to use math too. So what we're going to cover is the big idea in Shormann math. We'll do that first, and that means to learn math, you need to do math. And then we'll talk about the three main parts of Shormann math. All Shormann math courses, including this pre-algebra, have the same three main parts: daily lessons, a section review quiz, and then quarterly exam at the end of each quarter. So to learn math, you need to do math. And what does that mean exactly? Well, doing math does mean these things. Pray first. As a Christian, I believe prayer is important, especially when you're trying to learn new things. That's one time, including when you're trying to learn new things like math. And so pray first before a lesson. Ask God to give you patience, clear thinking, and joy. The right attitude makes a big difference when you're learning, including when you're learning math. Doing math does mean to study flashcards of rules and definitions, or just look at the rules and definitions at the beginning of each reading assignment. Try to memorize it. Spend 10 minutes max every day on that. Doing math also means to watch the lecture and take notes, doing all the example problems that are presented. It also means doing those practice sets by solving the problems on paper. And solving problems on paper means showing work, showing your steps on how you're solving each individual problem. And doing math, it does mean that you need to be ready to build fluency over time through patient practice. Math is like learning a language, learning a new sport, things like that. It takes time, and you have to repeat the same things over multiple times before you get them down, before you're fluent at them. Doing math doesn't mean passive reading, meaning just sitting there reading a textbook for hours or watching the lecture without taking notes. You want to take notes on that lecture. Doing math does not mean this either, spending 10 minutes being stuck on a practice set problem. If you don't understand an individual practice set problem, move on. You'll see that type of problem repeated later. This course has continual review built in, so you don't have to think you have to understand something perfectly right now. You don't have to think you're a failure if you don't understand something perfectly right now. Study the solutions that are provided, stay humble, acknowledge your mistakes, move on to the next lesson. Now, before we move on to the e-learning course and how that works, I want to mention that the first quarter, the first 25 lessons, those should be mostly review for you. And the lectures will be a little bit longer in those first 25 lessons, but the homework, the practice sets, that should be easier because it's review. The remaining lessons are shorter, but they're often more challenging because it's mostly new material being covered. So just some things to keep in mind as you get going here. Okay, so let's start taking a look at the e-learning course and the main parts of that, the daily lessons, the section quiz, and the quarterly exams. We'll start with daily lessons. So when you log into the course, it'll look something like this, and you'll see the menus over here on the left. There you have section by section link, section 1, section 2. Say we wanted to do lesson 4, so we'd click on that section 2 and scroll down, and there it is, and you see these 4 pages, one for each lesson plus the section 2 quiz. So if you want to do lesson 4, you just click on that page, and you can see in here 4 parts. This is your lesson. Every lesson has the same setup, so that's an easy thing about Shormann math is we keep the lesson format consistent. So all lessons 1 through 100, they'll have 1, the reading assignment, 2, the lecture, 3, the practice set, 4, the facts practice. They'll all have those parts. So you start with part 1 here, and there's some instructions for reading assignments. You can click and open that, take a look at that. Those stay the same, so once you get those down, you don't have to keep clicking and opening that every single lesson. That will be the same. But then new lessons have new rules and definitions. You can click and open that, take a look at that, look at your rules. No new definitions in this particular lesson, but study like that place value chart, for example. And that'll open in a new window for you, so you can just click and go back to the previous window. We'll also have some Quizlet flashcards, and those also help with memorizing things. So 10 minutes at the very most on that every day. Then you watch your lecture and take notes on that lecture, and you just click, open that. You should have a piece of paper out, take notes on that, and when that lecture opens, you have an option there to go to full screen, and I recommend doing that. You also have a picture-in-picture window that you can click and move around. But again, there's different ways. This is obviously pretty small here and hard to see, but you might want to use that method. Not necessarily recommended. I would recommend full screen. But one thing you can notice on this is what you need to write, especially, are the things that I write out. So you don't have to write the entire example problem down. And so right here I'm solving example 4.2a. And you can see how the handwritten part comes up on the screen in real time, like you were in a class watching a lecture with a whiteboard. And a great thing about it too is that if you don't understand something, you can quickly rewind. It's very easy to rewind, go back a little bit, and go back over something if you didn't quite understand it. That's an important part of this self-paced learning, and so some people can just watch this and just go through this very quickly. Others may need to review. But so for sure, you want to write down the title, lesson 4. You want to write down the subtitles like part A, place value and expanded notation. Any key ideas that you hear, problem-solving tips. You want to make short notes on those, and then you also want to do the example problem. So you would have A, parentheses 2000 plus 100, and then for B, you'd be writing that down, breaking that one up as well, doing it like I do it on your paper. And that's part of showing work, doing it like that. So you want to be actively involved in that lecture, pausing, rewinding as you need to, doing the problem on your paper. Once you're done with that, then you go on to the practice set. So again, there's some instructions on how to do the practice set and complete everything, so you can open that and read those. Make sure and do that, especially your first few times, to get the method down well. But you click on that practice set and that will open up. And it's always important to notice what the grading method is on these. This one's first attempt. So that means whatever you do on this practice set, then that's going to be your grade that's recorded in the grade book. So you go to attempt quiz now, and then the quiz opens up, and we call the homework sets practice sets. Like this is lesson 4 practice set. But the e-learning campus calls every graded thing a quiz. So just distinguish between what Shormann Math calls a quiz and what the e-learning campus calls a quiz. This is a practice set. The homework is practice. And so it's a 20 problem practice set. And so you see this quiz navigation panel over on the left. You can click and go to any problem that you want to. And so let's say we want to go to problem 16. We can solve that. And let's give that a try. Identify the place value of the 3. So I'm going to say that's in the thousands place. Check that answer. And it tells me that was incorrect. Look, it also gives me a hint. The 2 is in the thousands place. So the 3 is in the which place. So I've been given a hint there to help me. Notice also there's example links referencing the type of problem this one is most like. And also the lecture, you can go click and open the video lecture as well. So you also have this little subscript right here that tells you that this problem 16 is from lesson 3. That's what that little subscript means. So we have all of this information, all of these different ways. You can go look at your lecture notes too. All these different ways to help us with a problem. And so you get one more try on this. And so we'll click try again. And we'll say the 10,000s place there and check that. And we get a green check mark. That one is correct. And you can see over in the navigation pane, it shows you that you finished that problem and you got that correct. So also down here, you can click next page and that'll go to the next problem, or previous page gets you back to the previous problem. So when you're done with everything, you're satisfied that you're complete, go to finish attempt. And this carefully goes through. It doesn't just automatically grade it right there and you're done, but it brings up this summary. It tells you all, shows you all the problems and how many tries you have left on each problem. And so like that number 16 that we did, it shows us that we got that correct on the second try. That's why we got 0.5 out of 1 points on it. We got half credit on it because we got it on the second try. So you miss it the first try, that's half off. And then you still get one more try left, so you can still get half credit on it. So if you're satisfied you're done, you hit submit all and finish. Another window comes up, so you have to hit submit all and finish again. It's just making extra sure you meant to click that and everything. And you click that, second submit all and finish. Your grade comes up and shows you what your grade is out of a 100-point scale there, and also just on a 20-point scale. Each 20 problems, each problem's worth 1 point. But then the main thing I look at is this 100-point scale there. And you can scroll down and it shows you quickly what all the correct answers are, and it shows you that you solved that problem, got that correct. And also there's step-by-step PDF solutions, so you can click on that, study more of a step-by-step solution to each problem as well. Now, you study those solutions, you study the reference examples for a certain problem, and you still don't understand, then you can email me and ask me a question. Say, I don't understand this particular type of problem. Great thing to do is to send me a picture of your work on that problem, because if I can see your work, then it's more likely I'll be able to tell where your mistake is. So when you're done, you can click on Finish Review, and that'll bring you back to that practice set, or you can go back to the course homepage if you want to. And we're not done with the lesson though at that point. Remember, there's 4 parts to each lesson. So back in lesson 4, the last thing we need to do is the facts practice. So you just click on your facts practice, and there's instructions on it. Read those carefully and how to do each problem, and then notice the grading method is highest grade this time. So that means you can do these multiple times until you get 100 actually. So you don't need to have any prior experience with them, and you just go to attempt quiz now. These are set up a little different. Notice that all the problems are on one page. There's no second tries or anything like that. So you can quickly go through these and just enter answers and do those very fast. And we'll just go on down and go to finish attempt. But you can see all of them there. You can see where it says answers saved and then not yet answered here on the summary page. And that can help you see to make sure that you answered everything. Then you go submit all and finish, and gives you a grade again. And feedback there says try again if you didn't make 100. These should be really easy. But if like you don't know what 2 minus 2 is, then study that. And it tells you again the correct answer right there. So you can memorize all of these, get these down well, and try again for 100. Because your highest grade is recorded on those. Okay, so now you're done with a lesson. Again, we can go to Finish Review and go back to your Section 2. And so you can do Lesson 5 next, then Lesson 6. So typical section, which a lot of students, they'll complete that in a week. The Section 2 means week number 2. Section 3, week number 3. Don't have to do it that way, though. It's a self-paced course. But the last thing you do in that section is the quiz that goes with that section. And it's based off of the lessons covered just within that section. So the first thing you want to do, there's some study tips here. And then it tells you to solve these particular problems. Anything from Lesson 5A, solve example 5.5 again, 6.8. Do those again and just make sure you understand the things that were in If it's just saying a lesson there, just understand the things that were in that, any example problems within there. But then there's also sometimes specific example problems, and your quiz will have a problem that's really, really similar to that type of example. So if you follow the pattern in example 4.2, then the first question on the quiz will be real similar to that type of problem. So when you're done with your studying, which shouldn't take long, 10-15 minutes, then read the quiz instructions, and the quizzes are timed. That's a difference between them and the practice set. So you click on that and you read that information. See, it says time limit 20 minutes, grading method first attempt, and so that first attempt is the one that's graded. That also means that you can take this again later if you want to for practice, like if you want to study for the quarterly exam using your quizzes, you can do that. So then you just go through this, do all of the questions, see the time limit right there. These are designed so that if you studied the right way based on those instructions, you'll have plenty of time to finish these. And so first problem, write it in expanded notation, that number there. So I think it's that choice, hit check. And it says that's incorrect, but then it also gives me a hint. And you actually get 3 attempts on quiz questions instead of just 2 attempts like the practice set problem. And so you can click that try again, attempt that question again, and then move on to the next question. The quiz is open notes, so you can use your e-learning resources. You can go back and look at different examples, so maybe open a new window. But really, if you study the right way and you took some notes and you solved those example problems, then looking at your study notes that you use to study, that should be enough to help you solve the problems. If you have one like this where it's not really a math problem to solve and you forgot the difference between these types of numbers, then you might want to go open up that lesson, and right there in the rules and definitions of it, you'll be able to see which set of numbers begins with 1. So just like on the practice sets, you'll click that finish attempt when you're done, and then submit all and finish, and do that twice. And again, your grade will appear, and then it'll tell you, well, if you did pretty bad or not on that. Unfortunately, it'll tell you that too. But again, those example problems and lesson references will come up for you to review as needed. So finish that review, go to course homepage. Now, let's say you got through the first quarter, the first 25 lessons, you're ready for quarterly exam 1. So that's section 9 there is quarterly exam 1. And so there's 36 sections total in the course. Quarterly exam 1, it just has 1 page there. And so you can click on that. And there's some specific study instructions there. And you'll want to print and follow those study instructions for quarterly exams. And every quarterly exam has 2 practice exams that go with it. Again, there's instructions for how to do the practice exams. But first you want to print out the study instructions for the quarterly exam, how to prepare for the entire quarterly exam. And there's things you do before you complete the first practice exam. Don't just come over here and click on practice exam 1 and get started. There's other things you'll want to do first. Practice exam 1, practice exam 2, and then you do quarterly exam 1, and there's instructions for that as well. You'll click on that to get started. That's timed. The practice exams are not timed, but the actual exam is timed. 1 hour time limit on that, and you get 2 attempts on it. And so look at the grading method. Your grade is averaged on the quarterly exam. Okay, so if you studied well and you understood everything that was on the practice exams, on top of studying well, then the quarterly exam will not be a big deal. You might get a 90, maybe you make a couple of careless mistakes on the quarterly exam, then you get a second attempt, and you should be able to get 100 on that second attempt, and then your 2 grades are averaged together. So difference on the quarterly exam than the quizzes or the practice sets is you cannot use your notes, textbook, or other outside sources to assist you. Okay, this is you and your brain. You can use your calculator if allowed. On this quarterly exam one, it says no calculator, but other ones you are allowed a calculator. And that's it. Every quarter is going to be similar like that. You'll have your daily lessons, your section quiz at the end of the section, your quarterly exam at the end of the quarter. Anytime you want to see your grades, you can just go up to your student profile up here, and in that sub menu there, you just go down to course grades. My grades is for if you're taking more than one course for it. It'll list all of your different courses there when you click on that. But go to course grade here, and so you see this user report open up, and you see these columns: grade, percentage, and average. So let's take a look at those. And so for week 1 quiz, we have completed here a score of 10, and that percentage on a percent scale, 10 out of 10 points. So 10 divided by 10 times 100 is 100%. And the average is all the students who have taken that quiz, what their average is, and so that's a 9.39. And so you can use that column to tell if you're a little bit above or a little bit below average. And then look down here, week 2 quiz, a 2.5, so that's 25%, and 9.58 is the average there, so below average on that one. And so this percentage, it's not super helpful if you're just looking at how your score was on an individual activity and compared to the class average. So this isn't that helpful there. But when it is helpful is when you scroll down to the very bottom, it gives you like a running average of your class grade on a 100-point scale. So go back up here. The only two things that have been completed right now are week 1 and week 2 quiz in this example here. And so the average of those two is 62.5%. And so this sample student here is just a pretend student, is averaging 62.5. Obviously you'd want to average better than that, 85% or higher. So this gives you a running average of your grade in the course. And so that's where you want to take advantage of looking at the percentages. Scroll down all the way to the bottom there and take a look at that. You can ignore this number at the bottom and this one at the bottom, and those are not helpful at the bottom. This is the one you want to look at, and just make sure that you understand that's your overall running grade on a 100-point scale, and you'd like to keep that 85% or higher. That would be ideal. But back up, looking at individual scores again, just grade and your grade compared to the average. Those are the two most important ones that you want to look at. Well, that's about it for this getting started. Do Shormann math like this. Learn new stuff, practice it, review it, take a section quiz, then study all of it again and take a quarterly exam. You'll keep practicing and learning though, because each new practice set is going to review previous things as well. This course is designed to build fluency in math and really help you learn it. With the right attitude, the right effort, you will become good at math. Thank you for watching this. God bless you, and I hope this course goes great for you.